take us back a little bit. You were the host at Dan Tana's for...
I thought we were going back to where I was born. Anyway.
No.
Now we can
do that too.
No. That would be further back. I think that'd be boring. All right, so let's see. In an acting class, going to college, I'm a waiter like every other person in LA, and kind of making my way through. And I've got a job at Antonio's, a Mexican restaurant on Melrose, one of the first high-end Mexican restaurant places. And there's little Craig, and he's wearing a black, vest, and he's got one of those big, colorful Mexican bolo ties, and I'm selling, upscale Mexican food. And there's a guy named Rudy there that was actually a really old school great waiter that first started teaching me the art of hospitality, right? It's not just the mechanics. So learned a lot there. And then we would celebrate, the acting class would celebrate a lot at Dan Tana's. And that's how I first kind of learned about Dan Tana's. I'd go there once in a while as a customer. I didn't have any money, but I would go there once in a while. And I stopped in on a Saturday night, just have a beer on my way home. And Jimmy, who was the maitre d', and Mike, who was the bartender, who is quite literally the best bartender I've ever met in my life and influenced so many people in this town. They were like, hey, have you ever been a bartender before? And I was like, nope. And they're like, perfect. And I'm like, what? They're like, look, it's easier if you don't know anything for us to teach you than if you come in here with bad habits. So they sent me home with literally an empty vodka bottle and a shot glass. And they said, fill it with water, be able to pour a shot without looking, and then let us know when you got it. And so I started at Dan Tana's in 1986 as a waiter and a server. It didn't go particularly well. 6 months of basically getting my brains beaten in by the regulars, like, who's this kid? And he doesn't know anything. And I'm like, I'd walk up to a table and I'd say, hey, can I get you anything? And they'd be like, F off, where's Brock? Like, F off, where's Will? Like, where's my regular waiter? And that was hard to take, right? So you literally feel like you can't do anything right. But it was just it was a very regulars kind of restaurant, and they wanted what they wanted. And I slowly learned as a waiter and a bartender what people really, really, really wanted. And so 1986, I'm working a little bit as an actor. I mean, enough to kind of keep my foot in the door. I've got a really good job and meeting a lot of amazing people. I mean, the people that used to come in and out of Dan Tana's back in the 80s and early 90s was just like an eclectic crew, but a lot of fun. And that's where I really learned the backbone of the hospitality business. And then in 2003, I was asked to take over as the maitre d'. And I don't know why or how or what, but it was like literally dropping a fish in the water. I don't know how I know how to do it. I was just like, bang, I got this. And I was really good at it. Yeah. And I loved it. And I still do. And that really went on and continued my education in the business. Then I kind of took on some managerial duties and stuff like that in 2008, 2009. And then eventually I was going to buy a piece of Dan Tana's or all of it. And Dan, without going into details, decided to do something else. And in 2010, he sold it to somebody else. And I worked there for a few years, for a few months, and realized that it was time for me to open my own place.
I apologize for skipping ahead. That was just where our paths intersected. So I'm like, oh, that's the beginning.
Yeah,
I appreciate that additional context.
Yeah, so there was a little bit more emotion to it. My dad had passed away. Dan was like a second dad to me. The future that I kind of had planned for myself didn't really work out, but I don't know. Look, the universe sometimes has plans for us that even we don't know. And I mean, thank God all that happened, because Craig's wouldn't exist. So in 2010, I decided to leave, put together all of the money that I had. My family threw in some money. We had about half, went out to some select people and who said, yeah, you can do this, and raise some money. And actually, I remember signing a lease in August, and we opened January 12th, 2011. And people have asked me, like, what's significant about that date? I'm like, that's the date I didn't have any more money, so let's open. It's like, and that's it. And we opened, and you know, everybody likes to think it was like a rocket ship right from the get-go, and it wasn't. It was incredibly busy in the first 2 or 3 months, but we had a lot of growing pains, like every restaurant. And that's why whenever a new restaurant opens, everybody says to me, did you go? Did you go? And I'm like, no, I like to give them 3-4 months, because it's really hard to get an entire crew working together as a unit. Now, just imagine if you were working fry, he was working pasta, I'm working grill, and then it's your day off. Now you've switched positions. Right? So you got to get everybody to make everything exactly the same way. And the waiters have to be working in concert, and the door has to be working in concert. They don't even know where the forks are, where the pepper is, where it's not hardwired yet. So all of those things that we take for granted aren't yet. It's like a ballet. It's like a frenetic, crazy ballet, but everybody knows where they're going to be. And everybody knows how to get by everybody, right? So right in the beginning, everybody's bumping into each other. They don't know where to go. They don't know what everything is. And not everybody's making everything the exact same way. So it takes a long time. And then I can't say that I knew how to do this, but I knew enough to give the restaurant room to grow as opposed to what I thought it was supposed to be. I don't know if that makes any sense. I knew that things weren't perfect. The food wasn't right. Some of the drinks weren't right. Some of the service wasn't right, but we just kept working on it. And I just kept saying to people, stick with me, I got it. Stick with me, I got it. I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. You're right. And slowly we started making those changes, and people started noticing those things. And they started, understanding that I wasn't happy either, right? And that was kind of the biggest thing. And then slowly but surely, you could start to feel the ship get righted. And then all of a sudden, I'd say in September or October of that year, I just felt it. And I was like, oh, now the place has a little swagger. Oh, okay, it found itself. And it wasn't exactly what I had intended. It was just a little off. It was like that 10% that gave it that people were suggesting dishes, and we were going, okay, well, let's try those as specials. And then they would land really well, and I put them on the menu. But I didn't necessarily intend to serve that in the beginning. But then I realized I want to be that restaurant where you go to get your favorite thing, not where I'm teaching you how to eat. It's a very different philosophy.
Thank you for watching Studio 22.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And follow our socials at Studio 22 Podcast.